I will start. Yeah. And I wanted to make a few intro words. The idea to make this course arose from data audit for Biodiversity Data Journal for Biota of Russia issue, where Robert was a data reviewer, and most of you know him from this communication. Then Robert kindly suggested to me and Dmitry Shigel to organize a course on data cleaning in Russia using Bash and his tools, which he prepared and successfully uses for data audit for GBIF. This will be the first course of this kind for Russia, and we intend to make it more regular in future during GBIF in Russia training courses. These workshops were regularly held during conferences in Russia on GBIF and data mobilization, and they included topics like data publishing and data cleaning, but not in Bash. This course, thanks to Robert, would complement this initiative on data mobilization educational courses in Russia. Our program today will include the first online meeting where we could communicate in person and ask questions directly to Robert, and we could introduce each other, and Robert will make introduction to his course and his instruments. And after this, we will switch to email lessons and Zulip chat communication. Totally, there will be 7 lessons from Robert. With
Four
now.
Condensed.
And our corresponding homework. And we already had 2 prior presentations for beginners in Linux, which could be found on our website. Later, we will move this information also to GBIF.ru website as part of educational courses already published there. And with this, I will give floor to Robert.
Okay, thank you, Nina. Nice introduction, very clear, and it shows where we are. And what I'm going to do is to send everyone who is interested in doing this course 4 different lessons as PDFs, and also some sample data to work with. And what these lessons do is demonstrate how to use Bash tools to solve particular problems. So we're looking not from the Linux point of view, but from the data cleaning point of view. Here's a data problem. How do we find it? And so I'm going to suggest, look, these are very good tools to use for that. Here's how they work. Try and see what happens. If you have any problems, instead of everyone emailing each other, I suggest we use the Zulip chat forum, which I have set up so that everyone can see what the problems are and what possible answers are too. And as soon as this meeting is over, I will send everyone an invitation to join Zulip, and also lesson number 1 and the data. I'll send that by email as soon as we finish here. But the course is, I have to explain, the course is not magic. You know, there is no magic software, no magic methods that will take your data and you just push a button and everything is clean. That doesn't happen. There are too many possible things that can be wrong in a data set or that can be improved. And you can't write one piece of software that's going to fix everything. So instead, what we do is we divide up, or what I have done, is to divide up the data cleaning world into separate sections. For example, there's a section on what is in an individual field. Like you have a field in Darwin Core called recorded by. And in that field, you put the name of collectors with the name of observers of something. Okay, what can go wrong there? You know, that's the question. Another division of this work is if you have several fields in a table, do they agree? In other words, for example, this often happens. The event date when an observation was made, let's say, is today, 16th of November. Okay, good. But it says in date identified, 16th of October. So this thing was identified a month before it was collected or observed. That's not possible. So that's a disagreement between the event date field and the date identified field. And I show you how to find that particular disagreement in lesson number 2. So those are disagreements between fields. They are very common in data tables. A third class of problems have to do with the characters you use, their encoding, and so on. When you put your data into the IPT, the Russian data repository from which GBIF is going to take your data, the data are automatically made UTF-8 encoded, which is the universal encoding nowadays. They are automatically tab separated fields, not comma separated, not any other kind of separation, but tab character to separate one field from another. And they also are in plain text without Windows line endings or anything fancy like that. So when you put your data into the IPT, you already have improved it just by making it UTF-8 encoded and a plain text table with tab separations and nothing funny. However, very often the conversion to UTF-8 goes wrong. And instead of having, for example, a French name or a Russian name, it's all funny gibberish, nonsense code, nonsense characters. You can't understand what they are. And it's important to look for those mistakes in character conversions and coding conversions, which is a whole separate topic. And I'm also going to, in this course, look at certain special topics, which I've indicated in the outline. These are things that almost everybody has trouble with. For example, coordinates, latitude, longitude, yes. Coordinate uncertainty in meters, coordinate precision. How do they relate? Most people do not understand that. That's not their fault. They're not geographers. They're not, map makers. They don't understand exactly how coordinates work. So in the course, I'm going to treat that as a special topic to make sure that in your data tables, you have the latitude, longitude, uncertainty, and precision correct, so that there won't be any problems when the data go into GBIF. But I have to say something else. This is a GBIF in Russia group, which is terrific. It is wonderful that Russian data is getting into GBIF. Congratulations, it's wonderful that it's happening. But GBIF is not perfect. They will take your data and they will process it. And their processing often introduces mistakes or changes things that you put in that you do not want to be changed. And there's nothing you can do about that except maybe complain to GBIF. I have a weekly, every week I publish a blog post on data operations on the Linux command line. Tomorrow's blog post is about something GBIF is doing that they should not be doing. There is a form of code you can use to describe a transect that you went on when you were sampling plants or birds. You just give the first point and the last point, and there's a way of doing that. You can also say, I walked around this area, and you can draw a little polygon, which says that is my sampling area. And you can describe that using this code. It's called a footprint WKT. Don't worry about the technical details. Here's what happens. Every single time you put a perfectly good footprint WKT into GBIF, the processing says footprint WKT invalid. GBIF knows this is a problem. They've had complaints about it, and they've been working on it since April. It is not fixed yet. So GBIF is nice, it's good, it's a great place to find data, but it is always better to look at the original data that somebody has put up there, because the GBIF process data may have problems. I'm just warning you about that. Okay, that's an outline of what the course is like and what we're going to be doing. And I suppose Nina has suggested I should say something about myself. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing it for free? And the answer is, look, I'm an old man, I'm retired, I don't really need to earn money, but I have spent my entire life working with data. I trained as a biochemist. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I moved from biochemistry to biochemical genetics, then into forestry. And if any of you have worked in forestry, forest science, trees, plantations, you know that forestry is very data intensive. There's a vast amount of data in forestry. Foresters work with data tables all the time. And I spent years as a forester. I also spent years as a consultant working in the Tasmanian forests on conservation projects. And I also worked as a taxonomist. I just finished 20 years of work as a taxonomist, specializing in millipedes, where I collected, named, described a whole lot of species. Taxonomy is also very data intensive. So I've spent my whole life working with data. And I have to confess, you know, I started out with typewriters. Remember typewriters? Mechanical things, you hit the keys and a piece of paper. Yeah, okay. I moved on to computers and to databases, spreadsheets, and so on, because I thought this was the right way to manage data, to work with data. It wasn't until about 10, 12 years ago that I realized I should really look again at the command line to see what you can do with data. And I had this wonderful insight. All the data that I had ever worked with was plain text. It was just words, numbers, punctuation, spaces, nothing else. That was my data. And the command line tools for working with data, plain text data, first developed 40 years ago, are very fast, very efficient, very simple. So I realized that and moved into the command line, and suddenly I found jobs that would take me an hour in a spreadsheet would take me 10 seconds on the command line. Okay, this is better. And so I began working much harder on this. And I got into biodiversity data. I've known Lyubomir Penev now for 12 years, wonderful man. He was talking about data, data papers, and I started looking at data, auditing it, checking things, and finding problems. And after about 5 years of this, I said to Liubo, look, people are putting data into their data papers that isn't very good. Is there a way that we can help them? And he said, yes, we will start auditing the data that is attached to a data paper. And if the data aren't any good, we will stop processing the data paper until the data is fixed. What do you think? And I said, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. But we tried it. We started in 2017. I have now done 321 data audits for Pensoft, sometimes one table, sometimes 5 or 6 tables. Sometimes they're very short tables with only a few hundred records. They go up to 1.3, 1.4 million records. Is it hard? No, it is extremely fast. Because I'm on the command line, it very, very rarely takes more than 30 minutes to completely check a data set. It doesn't matter how big the data set is or how complicated. 30 minutes, it's done. Then I have to sit down and write a report. That takes time. That might take another hour. But the actual work is so fast. This is why I'm so sorry I'm not actually in Russia. You know, I would like to be sitting in your office with you on the computer and me watching and showing you how to do things, watching you do them and saying, yes, that's right, or do this other step and it'll be even quicker. But of course, we can't do that. We have to do it this way, remotely. But I hope you do find these lessons work. Nina suggested in one of her emails that I could actually show you how this stuff works when I do it on my computer. Is that possible?
Yes, you could share your screen. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I want to move to a different desktop. So let's see what happens. That's desktop 1. Maybe I can change.
Oh, we saw something for 1 second, then it gone.
I'll try that again. Can you see my terminal?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, Zoom is not very friendly with several desktops. So,
Okay. Yeah. I've got a terminal on my screen now, on the same screen as the Zoom thing.
Are you sharing your screen? To share unit? Oh, maybe now.
Yes.
Yes.
You can see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Fine.
Okay. What I'm going to do here is just look. I've got on my desktop at the moment a zip file from GBIF. So I'm going to look at this file, see what's in it. I'll unzip it. And now I've got an event.test and an occurrence.txt. That is an events table and an occurrence table. Can you all see that clearly? Can you read that?
Yes, we can.
Yes, so that's why.
Maybe to
maybe
to enlarge a little bit. Could you zoom in or not? Mhm.
I'll increase the font.
For me.
Yes, now it's
Better?
better. Mhm.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Fine, fine.
Yep. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see how these two tables are joined, because they are joined. Each one has an event ID field. The event.txt file will have event ID, one for each of the events. And then every time there's an occurrence at that event, the event ID table is there. So all I do is I type, oops, check VOC. Okay, that's a little program I wrote, which is part of the course. And look what it's done. It's checked to see if there are any missing or duplicates event IDs. And it also checks to see, are there any events IDs that are not in occurrence.txt, or rather that there are event IDs in occurrence.txt which are not in event.txt. So it passed the test. Wonderful. Now I can, for example, make a copy of that event.txt table into, and I'll call it EV, because it's easier to type. And because it comes from GBI, from an IPT, I know it's already in UTF-8 encoding, but look, there it is. It is UTF-8 encoded. How about any funny problems with the characters? Oops. I usually use my Gremlin script for that, and it says, yep, no problem. There are no Gremlin control characters, no Windows carriage returns, no break spaces or anything like that. Great. Next thing I could do, oops, is have a look at the characters in graph, in the EV table, see if there's anything unusual there. No, this is a command which shows you all the characters that are in the table, and also their encoding, if you're interested in that, but basically they're numbers. So like there are 182 double quotes, which is in hexadecimal code, that's 22. So there's no funny characters. That's terrific. Also, I can see that there are 8 opening parentheses, 8 closing parentheses. So there's no unmatched parentheses. This is terrific. Now I'm going to see what fields are in event.txt. There they are. Yep, good. And now I can use these numbers to very quickly see if there are any problems. So one thing I might like to do is just do what I call a tally of these fields. And I can, for example, tally field number 2, which is sampling, field number 3, which is sampling protocol. And oops, there's a problem. There are 22 records with beating, 1 with beating trees, but direct observation has 2 different spellings. You see that? Small o in 7 records, big O in 22. So to make the table tidier, I would tell the person who has this data, you want to fix that because these are pseudo duplicates. They're not exact duplicates, but they're very close. How about sampling effort, which is number 4? Oops. Try that again. Yeah, I could probably do something here, suggest something here as well. The person has used an apostrophe there and there for minutes, but maybe it'd be better to write 1 person per 15 minutes, 1 person per 30 minutes, because he's written out hours, might as well write out minutes. And just getting back to the fields, event date, year, and month. I'll just have a quick look to see, to make sure that the event date, because I've increased the font, I'm now running off the bottom of the page here. I'll try and shrink that down a little bit. Yeah, it's a little better. I'll do that again. So there are the dates in event date. Yep, they look okay. There's nothing funny there, like he doesn't have 2029 and or 1012 for a year, and all the years, the months and days look okay. I don't see a June 31st or June 35th. Looks good. But this person has also included year, month, and day. Now, the question is, do the year, month, and day entries agree with what's in event date? This is a way of comparing fields. And I've actually, because I use this command so often, I've actually stored it as a particular command, which is date disagreements. And now I can just edit this generic command. Event date is field 5, year is field 6, month is field 7, day is field 8. And if there is a problem, I'm going to say, if they don't agree, please print them out, which is 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the file name is Eve. Oops. This command tells me, yes, there are three records where that's true, where they don't agree. So let's have a look at them now. And what I will also do is put in the event ID. There they are. This is the event ID, one record for that, and they don't agree. 2019 710, 2019 711, 77, 76, 614, 615. So they have to be fixed. I hope this little demonstration shows you how quickly this all goes. You can just whiz through the whole table in no time. If I go, for example, I'll just bring up the fields again. There's a whole bunch of interesting places, yes, which are in the locality field. And an interesting question I can ask is, this command asks the question, for each decimal latitude and decimal longitude in EV, fields 23 and 24, do they all occur at the same locality? Oops, no. He's got a difference in name. There is a record here where instead of Sao Sebastião, he's put S. Sebastião. So there's a disagreement between latitude, longitude, and locality. But most of these things will not be serious problems. The geodetic datum is that. The country is Portugal. The country code is that, and so on. These are very quick checks. They don't take any time at all. And when you do them regularly, they become much easier to do. You find yourself just automatically thinking, what else can I check? Let me just have a look to see, instead of looking at latitude, longitude, and locality, I'll look at elevation in meters. Well, that's interesting. So at one of his samplings, 3 different records at that sampling, he's got an elevation of 13, and for one of them it's 14. It's probably not even an error. It's probably really true. He was at 2 different, slightly different elevations at that one spot. But these sorts of things are so fast. Let's have another look just before I stop sharing the screen. This is the occurrence.text data table, but I've changed its name to OCK to work with it. And let's just have a quick look at what we've got here. It's Kingdom Animalia, Arthropoda, Insecta, Coleoptera, Coccinellidae, and he's got a bunch of genera of the ladybird beetles, coccinellids. Good. So I might go through this and look for disagreements between scientific name and genus and specific epithet. There are some other things to check in the table. One thing we could also look at these are the collectors from recorders recorded by, and Darwin Core recommends not using "and" when you have multiple collectors, but instead to have, I'll write it out in the terminal here. Instead of doing that, they recommend you separate that like that. So I'll recommend that to the author. For those 64 records where that's recorded by, please change that to the recommended separator for multiple persons. Okay. That brings us back. I hope I've suggested to you this is really fast and it's very simple. And once you get those simple commands organized on your computer, you're going to find, wow, this is just so much better than working in spreadsheets or databases. Now, questions?
There are a couple of questions in chat. Asiya wanted to ask whether you are going to provide the example data table, which we should work to clean.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Your homework comes with a table.
Mm-hmm.
Lesson 1 table is quite small. Lesson 2 table, there isn't one, but you can use lesson 1 table for it. And after that, I'm going to give you to work on a real GBIF table. Okay? Mm-hmm. Actual data from GBIF, not Russian data. So you can do some data cleaning on those tables. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is data cleaning as opposed to data checking. Okay, you found some problems. What do you do next? For many tables, the easiest thing to do is to open the table in a text editor. Remember, it is just plain text. So open it in a good text editor. If you're on Windows, something like Notepad++, or Guiani, or Gedit if you're on Linux. They're wonderful text editors, and you can just fix things there. But there are also ways to fix data, correct data, change things on the command line. And I'm going to, in the lessons, show you how to do some of those as well. As you get very good on the command line, you're going to say yourself, oh, I can do this more quickly on the command line. Why go to a text editor? Yep.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Robert, I didn't understand which of these commands were standard Linux commands and which ones were your customized scripts.
Yes, I used CP, which is copy, to change the name, or rather to create a new file with a shorter name. I used ls list, which simply says list all the files in the current directory. Those are standard Linux things. And I also use less, which is a very nice command, which allows you to, if you have a long list of things, to work through the list or go backwards on the list screen by screen. So you sort of page through your list. And that's another Linux one. But most of the ones that I use are things that I wrote. They're not very complicated. And you can just copy them from the lessons, paste them into your computer, and they'll work.
How often you improve your scripts in relation to new instances, new issues you uncover in data sets?
Nina, I do it regularly because I'm always finding new problems. And I generally first work on a script or it's usually not a script, it's a function, which is much shorter than a script, just a couple of commands. And I try them out and I make sure they work. And then I write a blog post about it on my Bashing Data blog. If it really looks good and it really looks useful, I then add it to the cookbook, the Data Cleaners Cookbook, which I have online. This is another reason, incidentally, why I don't charge for training people. I don't charge for courses. Why? I've already put all the information online for free in the Data Cleaners Cookbook and my blog.
Robert, I have questions about commands that relate directly to the data. If I understand correctly, those commands derive from some kind of library.
I'm sorry, I don't understand, Maxim.
Command that deal with the data directly. Tapply, for example.
Yes.
This we need to install some library to repeat this command with data.
Now I understand what you're saying. No, almost all the commands that I use come with Linux. They're already there in Linux. If you have Linux, you've got them already. There are only two that I really recommend people have. One is called PV, and if you have Linux, it's free. You just download it from your package manager, which is what Linux uses to find new programs, and something called YAD, which is fantastic. It was produced by a Ukrainian developer, Viktor Ananjevsky. And what it does is it creates a little bit of a dialogue box for you, a graphical dialogue. I find it very useful. And I've given some examples in my lessons where you use YAD and where you use PV. So I recommend you use them. But if you have Linux, or if you have access to a Linux, what they call repository, where all the packages are, they're free, you just download them and they'll automatically be installed. Of course, if you're new to Linux, this whole business of updating and getting packages must seem very strange. I'm on, and so is Ivan, he's on MX Linux. We have access to something like 40 or 50,000 programs for free. When we push the update button, so to speak, on our Linux thing, the MX Linux servers and the Debian servers, don't worry about the names, they're just servers out there, will not only update our Linux, the operating system, they will also update every single program that has a new update. So if we've got, 50 or 60 programs that have got updates that we should download, maybe there's security improvements, maybe they're new features, maybe they change the window or something, all that happens in a single update. Just hit the update button and it's fixed. All the programs you download will come ready to work. You don't download a program in Linux and then find, oh, I need this other program to make it work. It doesn't happen. Your package manager, when you download a program, will give you all the other things that you need. It just works. And when I say updates, you know, the operating system, all the programs I'm using, the update, how long does it take? About a minute. I feel so sorry for Windows people. You know, they have the screen that says Windows is updating. Go have a coffee and come back in an hour. It's crazy. It's like that in Linux. I'm sorry, I did more than answer your question. Sorry.
I see I wrote example in chat. Could you see the chat? With one function which
Yes.
says need installation in her case.
PV, graph uses PV.
Mhm.
So install PV and it will work.
Could you write the name of the package in the chat? Thank you.
Robert, are you going also to describe your 4 lessons to describe the program?
Yes, I can do that.
To make intro for them.
Lesson 1, which you're going to get in a few minutes, is a very basic introduction to working with single fields, one field at a time. Lesson 2 is partly about disagreements between fields, but it also introduces awk, AWK, which is a very powerful sort of language or tool you can use for working with data. There's no awk in lesson 1. Lesson 2 introduces some awk commands, and you saw me use awk in that when I shared the screen too. Awk is extraordinary. It really is. So I hope that not only you get introduced to it, you start using it and see how powerful it is. Oh, something else. Yes, because I always, I know Ivan has been working on introducing you to Linux, but there are so many things that are a little bit different. One of the things that you will notice working on the command line is, as opposed to like working in a word processor or a spreadsheet or a text editor, imagine you have a spreadsheet, okay? And you make some changes. And then you save the file. So now you have a spreadsheet with the changes. Yes? Okay. That doesn't happen on the command line. On the command line, with a couple of exceptions, which you should stay away from, you never change the file. You create a new file with the changes you have made. So you always have a backup. And if you do a series of changes, like I will do an event table and I'll clean it a little bit and I'll give it another name like EV1, and then I'll do something else and I'll call it EV2, EV3. I've got the whole series of files there in case I need to go back and check something, or if I made a mistake in the corrections. So this is something different from working with the usual programs. On the command line, you do not normally change the file. You create a new file with the changes.
Robert, you stopped on lesson 2 describing the plan of other future lessons.
Yes.
Mm.
Let me just change my desktop here for a moment so I can look. Yes, I've just checked. Lessons 3 and 4 are those special topics like coordinates and a couple of other things. Something called domain schizophrenia, which is a very interesting topic in data cleaning, and characters. And you may wonder why worry if there is excess white space between two words, or why worry if there's a small difference in punctuation between a name in one record and a name in the other? I can see the difference, I can see the difference, but I know that this is the same thing. For example, I give an example in lesson 1, where somebody has Kaluga Oblast, yes, as the state, province, or county, sorry. And then in another field, they've got Oblast Kaluga, Oblast : Kaluga. We look at that and we say, okay, that's what they mean. It's Kaluga Oblast. No, the computer says those are two completely different things. And if I go looking for duplicates, they won't show up if I have two different forms of Kaluga Oblast. That's why it's so important. That's one of the reasons it's so important to get your tables very tidy, punctuation right, spelling right, and consistent. Because once you do all that, then you can check for duplicates. Do duplicates happen? Oh my goodness, yes. You would be amazed at how often I find records in GBIF that are identical except for the occurrence ID. Each one has its own ID code to make it different, but everything else in the record is identical. So what happened? Probably in the original data, before it went into GBIF, there was another field, maybe two fields, which distinguished these records. Imagine it was bird observations, okay? A whole bunch of bird observations somewhere in Russia. And there are 10 of them on one day. They didn't put in the time of the observation into the table. They didn't have an event time field. They just had event date. So now they have the same bird, 10 records, same day. They're duplicates. But if they had put in event time with the 10 different times, then they would be different records. That's an important thing which is checked for in lesson 2. Anything else?
I see in chat that people are eager to receive the lessons, asking where to find the lessons. So probably everyone.
I will email them to you as soon as we finish.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Do we have other questions from participants? All participants could.
Ivan has done such a wonderful job of introducing Linux. I should really refer you to ask Ivan for any Linux questions and ask me for data questions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, if there will be problems not with the data cleaning part, but with installation of Linux or using Linux, then Ivan could help, or other participants of course could help each other as well.
Yes, colleagues, if you have questions about Linux system, usual things, I can help you. Maybe I see many questions. Where can I find the scripts written by Robert? Where can I find? Where can I download it? So I think I should show you how to take the code from the web page of Robert and make a script for yourself. It's very easy, and I have shown it on last lesson and last Saturday, but I can show it again, how to make script from commands. You have list of commands, you put it in file, and you change of mode. You add X, you can run it, and you can use it. I will show you how to do it. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I'm intrigued. It's very interesting to participate in your course. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Nina, should we close down now?
Yes, I think we're about to close.
Thank you. Thank you,
If you
Robert.
don't have any questions more, then
Thank you.
we look forward
Thank
to
you. Very interesting.
look with data and the tools
Okay,
itself. And we will communicate in chat, and we could exchange our experience and problems in Zulip. We will try to use it.
yes, I will invite all of you to Zulip in a few minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you to everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you for the
Bye-bye.
lesson. Bye.
Bye-bye.